Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. It's 1 p.m. and we are here again. I'm just going to check that everybody, all our sound is okay and everything's okay. You know me, I like to do that kind of check. But I'm so appreciative for everybody who comes on and join us for our live discussions every day. We really look forward to you coming and asking questions and stuff like that. Thank you. Ooh, apologies. I'm looking for my live stream. Thank you and welcome to those who are new to the channel. My name is Joanna Daniel and I am a counselor. I live in Wales. I'm also a homeschooling mom. That's my first time full-time job. I work part-time as a counselor and we run an online ministry called Wounds to Scars where we help adult survivors of childhood trauma and abuse to find a safe space to heal. And Venris, I did a video yesterday and I'm doing another one today because there's some stuff going on that people are needing strategies to cope. So as you know, we're here every day in the lockdown from 1 p.m. We're here until the end of the year. So you can kind of schedule some time to be with us. We're going to talk about parenting in the crisis. We're talking about relationships and how to survive those. We're talking about when mental health is in the relationship, how do we manage? Because that's a thing. There are people who have mental health problems and navigating relationships, and especially in Christian spaces, we're finding that people are struggling and finding that difficult. We're going to talk about bereavement and loss and how do we cope with bereavement and loss as we're walking through this crisis. I'm going to have not only myself, but we're having different people that are going to be coming on and talking to us and sharing with our community and giving you tools to cope. Today, I have one of these people who is a gentleman, and I love to talk to men. And I did say to you, if you have brothers who are struggling, invite them today. Share this video with them. Let them subscribe to the channel because we're gonna have more brothers come on. And I know that as a people, I'm gonna say that sometimes men take longer to get help. So you might want to share this video with them. So I'm talking to Venris Sterlong today. Venris he's a teacher. He teaches psychology and science, but he particularly has some news that we're going to talk about today, and how the information that he has and some of the work that he does sometimes. Venris did a conference earlier this year that was specifically looking at some of these issues. And how some of that can help people that are struggling with low moods and anxiety. Thank you for coming, Venris.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. A true privilege to be a part of the YouTube channel, your YouTube channel, and just to be a change agent, as you have been for quite some time now as well.
Thank you. So Venris and I were talking, as we do before we come on. One of the things that I said yesterday, Venris, was that when people have anxiety or depression, and we kind of focus on that mostly this week, I always say to people, you have to do something. There are people who sometimes don't want to take medication, but they also don't have the motivation to do the work of exercise and nutrition and all the vitamins and minerals that they need to have and all of those kind of stuff. They don't want to do anything. And I always say you have to do something. You're either going to do that or you take the medication. Tell us some of the things that they can do, people who are experiencing low moods and anxiety can do to help themselves.
Well, I suppose there is some kind of a difference, and I suppose I want to start by just saying that you may need to get some kind of a diagnosis, because people will have low moods and it's intermittent. You have some kind of a trauma or tragedy in your life, then you will experience low moods. However, what we are talking about is something a little bit more concentrated, a lot more difficult for persons to actually handle. So depression, for example, is something that you have to be experiencing for a while. So in other words, you have to be experiencing these low moods and symptoms for at least 2 weeks, and they're consistent in that regard. And 5 or more of the symptoms that you need to be looking for. Motivation, of course, as I said, is just one of them. But a deep sense of sadness that is not explained by the things that we spoke about. So people having a trauma, or you having some kind of experiencing some kind of loss and grief in your life. Now, the fact of the matter is that depression and anxiety are what we call comorbid. So in other words, you tend to find them happening together. And anxiety oftentimes precedes depression, and it is actually a lot more difficult to handle than depression. Depression is actually quite easy to reverse if you know exactly how to go about this. And I suppose that's what we're going to be looking at some of the ways that we can actually go about that. Now,
I think we can't move on from that too fast. Because sometimes the message that we get, or the story that sometimes people will have around that and tell themselves is, this is it.
Right.
It can't be fixed. It can't be changed. And you're saying sometimes it's easy to reverse if people do. And I really wanted people to hear that bit, just so we don't move on too fast from it, because it can be, you can help yourself. There are things that you can do.
Yeah, you can do, and it's a lot about education. What we are doing here currently, that you can inform person as to there are things that can be done, and of course that support network is probably where you probably want to start. So family and friends that are around you, and if they are aware of things that they can be done as well, then they can actually help you get through some of the things, even if you're not motivated at that point in time. So let's just look at quickly as to how you probably can make a quick distinction between anxiety and depression. Now, anxiety is often very specific in terms of what people are actually thinking about. It's tends to be more about it's not focused on self. It's for the most part, and it is about something that is in the future. So if you are thinking about things that are coming up rather than things that are in the past, there is oftentimes more anxiety than depression. So you're worried about future events rather than past events. If you are more thinking about past events, it tends to be depression rather than anxiety. And of course, the depression becomes more self-focused. And as I said, it is more based on past events that have taken place. So that's one way that you can clearly distinguish between those two, even if you have not had any kind of diagnosis about the two. All right. And as I said, the social network, one of the things that COVID has done is kind of remove that aspect of the social. So people are isolated, right? And it has been referred to as what we call a perfect storm. So in other words, there is isolation taking place. There is lack of movement. There is lack of motivation happening, and social distancing, as they call it. And of course, you are not eating properly as well. So all of those things, unemployment or the possibility of unemployment, where there's some level of economic fallout, and all of those things and worries and fears coming together has created this kind of atmosphere where people, are actually, probably more depressed and more anxious than ever before. And we have also seen some of the research that are just coming out recently, that of course, things like suicide ideation, people having more suicide thoughts and all of that, that are actually going up because of the kind of atmosphere and climate that has been created by COVID. So yes, major part of it, I believe, is your social network. And if funny enough, I just saw a recent research coming out of the US that says that people who are involved in church or some kind of a club are 3 times less likely to actually have any form of depression and of course suicides as well. So that is one aspect of it that we have to look at very carefully. So one of the things that we can do is, as I said, friends and family of persons, if we realize that they are being depressed, then we need to actually be persons who are going to come in and actually help them in that regard. And of course, that help can come in different forms. You are being there for them, but also to help them to things like, proper meals, because they might not actually be motivated to actually prepare a meal. As I said, they need to move. And so therefore going on little walks with them might actually be something else. Issues with sleep is another, of course, issue. And of course, things like drinking water. We're just talking about the whole issue of the in the news. So those are just general things, but that social networking, that social arm of it is going to be extremely important as people move forward, and especially as you come into these winter months as well.
Yes, I mean, and there were when there's anxiety and depression, sometimes people tend to go internal anyway and isolate themselves.
Yes.
And it's kind of easier to do now that we're in a lockdown, and if you're not in my bubble, then I can't see you and all that kind of stuff. But you're saying people with a social network or people who have that kind of contact are less likely to have depression or easier to recover?
Both. Right. Both. Right. I just want to make a quick distinction between what we call social distancing. Social, it's not really social distancing, and I don't like the term being used, because it's actually physical distancing. So you're distancing from persons on a physical level. So you're placed whether 2 meters or whatever from them, but you're not distancing from them socially. So in other words, you still have, you make contact with persons, and you are, of course, the avenues that we have now, whether it is Zoom or other kind of platforms, and the platforms that we're actually meeting at this point in time can actually be utilized in order to actually ensure that that social aspect of it is still there.
The contact is, you're still up in contact with humans, with people.
Exactly, right. So it is, as I said, it's physical distancing. It is not social distancing. And I just want to kind of make that clear. So we are still able to meet and to talk to persons and to be there for individuals, even though that you are physically apart.
I saw something, I live in a small village, and I saw something in the early stages of lockdown that really was inspiring and did my heart good. And then I started to see people posting things like that on social media, where there's an elderly couple that lives down the road, and there's this guy who would stop parking there in their garage, and he sits in his car or leans on the car, and they're at the door, and they're talking and laughing, and you can see how that must brighten their day when somebody do that. So there are creative ways that we can use to still stay in contact with people and not cut off.
Indeed. As a church body, we actually, during lockdown, we would cook. So different household would cook probably, and then you'll take meals to other persons on the Sabbath, right? For example.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So we that is one way of actually just still sharing, and so you're distancing in terms of the physical space, but you don't have to distance as it concerns sharing with others, and and different persons now would do that on a weekly basis, and it has been a wonderful thing in terms of just bringing that life to people as well.
That's a great idea, because as an introvert, it took me a long time to miss people, I must say. I was fine for many months, but then it came to the point when I'm like, okay, that's it. What I really missed was having lunch.
Yes.
Having lunch with people, and we've not had that since March. So what an amazing idea that is I'm just going to turn this off. What an
Yeah.
amazing idea that.
And you can do that, as I said, any day of the week, as a matter of fact. So you can rotate it on a daily basis if you choose to. And if you have a social and a network of friends, then you can actually be exchanging meals. Or persons who who have to be what the term calls it. So in other words, they have to be distant because of health.
Right.
Right. Then also those are persons that you can actually go and assist where that is concerned. You take meals to them, and it makes a difference in persons' lives.
So there's a way to have a meal together without breaking the rules or putting yourself at risk or putting anybody else at risk. But there's a way to still be in contact, and that social aspect is really, really important. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things is that we have to look at creative means of actually, and I think even though COVID presents itself as some kind of a threat, they say that in every threat there are opportunities available, and we just need to kind of seek out those opportunities. I know in the lockdown there are many people who learn to bake, for example, right? So that might be one thing, is finding creative things to do when you are in lockdown, and that will actually ward away any kind of mood, low mood that you may actually I think a lot of times when it happens is when people are really disconnected from each other. We are gregarious beings, we are social beings, and that's very important that we keep that going.
Yes, we are indeed. So, I mean, this is really, really great. Some creative ways to stay in touch, not be isolated, because it's so easy to sink into the feeling and to sink into the mood and to not do anything. It's really easy to do that.
Yes.
But one of the solutions, I mean, the social aspect, as Ben Reese is saying, is so important. And he's giving us some creative ways that I had not thought about, that we still meet up, that we could still be in contact without putting ourselves at risk or putting anybody else at risk. Really important.
Yeah.
What are some of the other things, like maybe, as we wind down, what are some of the other things that people can do that would, we know that the social piece is really important. Is there anything in terms of nutrition that they can do that would help?
Well, definitely. Depression is highly linked with a number of what we call micronutrient deficiency. So oftentimes people will have their macronutrients. The major ones are your carbs, your proteins, and your fats, right? And people tend to have a lot of those things, and the micronutrients in terms of your minerals and vitamins and phytochemicals and antioxidants, those are kind of taken out of the equation. And for the most part, in terms of brain function, a lot of these are actually important. So lack of iron can cause depression. A lack of things like calcium in terms of the brain communicating with each other. And so therefore your fruits and vegetables are, nuts, seeds are going to be extremely important for you actually to maintain that brain health, and also to ward off things like depression and anxiety. So, and unfortunately, when the different symptoms present themselves, oftentimes people will not actually have many of these things. We need fats as well, of course, for our brain. Our brain actually is probably one of the fattest parts of our bodies, but we tend to feed on more what we call saturated fats. So things like your potato chips and your fries and all the different kind of stuff, rather than the healthy fats.
With good fats.
Walnuts, your avocados, are extremely good for the healthy fats for your brains.
And I learned about B12. And as Black people in this country where there's not a lot of sunlight, vitamin D, the liquid vitamin D3 is really important. And I did my 2 weeks holiday at a health retreat, which was amazing.
Right.
And they introduced me to this B. It's not new to me, to them, but to me, B12, which is again really good for the moods, and it's in liquid form.
Mhm.
So you just take one kind of thingy, syringe full of,
Right.
which is also really helpful to help with low moods.
Mm. Yeah, your brain, as I said, B vitamins in general are going to be very important for that. B12, oftentimes, sometimes are not a part of, yeah, like your vegan diet,
Mm,
for example.
mhm.
It doesn't mean that it is found in animals. It's just that the animals kind of eat stuff, and the bacteria that are processing B12s are actually available to them a lot more. But any types of your vegetables, and especially your green leafy vegetables are important for your B vitamins, and you have a range of them, not just B12. And the
Mhm.
important thing is having, a balance, kind of
Mm,
diet where you're having all of the essential vitamins, minerals, and of course, some of your macronutrients as well. So
mhm.
that balance is going to be extremely important for people when you eat, and making sure that the brain remains healthy and active as
Yeah.
well. And I suppose I could segue into that when you talk about activity of the brain by talking a little bit about exercise as well. Because you may not be so motivated as you rightly say to do an hour a day, and the whole idea is having starting very small. I believe just a few things. My wife and I do probably 20 seconds of different. We do probably about five different exercise, but it lasts 20 seconds, and we time ourselves because in the
Okay.
morning you might not be able to do that. So some jumping jacks, pop squats, and our little squats, some push-ups, ab work. All right. So all of those and just running on the spot, just something as simple as that, 20 seconds, each of those. And you do that. You can do that interval probably 2 or 3 times, depending on the amount of time you have. And it
Mhm.
gets the body going.
It does.
The most difficult part of exercise is probably 5 minutes before the exercise, really. Because once you get
That is
going,
so
yeah,
true.
it,
That
it,
is
it,
so
you,
true.
you feel totally different and transformed. But as I said, I'm not trying to make light the fact that persons who have major depression may have difficulty to do that, and just come back to, as I said, the social networks that are around persons to help them when through that type of situation, and just getting them, being there for them, to help them get through some of those things. And
Mm-hmm.
as I said, utilize the medium that is the different type of media that is now available to persons, where you don't have to be there in order to be there to wake them up and say, all right, let us do some exercise together, right? So yeah, you turn on the phone kind of stuff, and or the different things, and you exercise together.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
just getting creative. And the mere fact
yeah,
that person see you doing it, they oftentimes are a little bit more compelled to do it themselves.
yeah. And as
Right.
I love that you said that the most difficult part of exercise is 5 minutes before the
Mm,
exercise. I
yes.
experienced that this morning, like it's raining, so I can't go for my walk or run. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna do something on YouTube. But those minutes before,
Right. Yeah.
you start
That's
to
the
tell yourself reasons why you shouldn't.
yeah.
But not
I
good.
think that actually comes in also. One of the other aspects of that is very difficult is because when people are locked down, they'll probably binge on certain things. People, they'll binge on television shows, they'll binge on food, right? But especially television shows. So you go probably out of your normal routines when that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Sleep is a critical part of it. While depression, is correlated with either too much sleep or very little sleep. But the fact of the matter is that if you don't have consistent bedtime and wake times, then that is going to severely impact your mood in any case, right? So that's going to still be important that you do maintain the regularities of bedtime and wake time in lockdown, because that is going to show off your mood if you are not having those. And sleep is is a major part of ensuring that you have replenished and make sure that you can actually function during the course of the day.
Yes, yes, indeed. Some really, really good tips there, Venris. Thank you so much for coming. I know we could do this again and again and go.
We
And
could do a lot more, right?
we could stay here. But we're gonna be here, as I say, throughout the rest of the year, every day. We're not talking about depression all the time and every day, but of course you'll get more tips and strategies that you can use to manage. Our hope and our aim and our desire is to give you information that you can implement in your lives to start to see the changes, so you don't feel like you're doing this thing on your own, because we understand, we really do understand that this is a crisis, and we're trying to, all of us, to try to find the best way possible that we can to navigate our way successfully through this crisis. And that's why we're here giving you this. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming. Thanks for those who are watching live. There are no questions or comments today, but if you have any, you can please put them in the chat section and we can see them. Venris, really quickly, where can people find you online? Are you online? Where can they find you to get more information?
You probably could find stuff on YouTube. I am my space, my website is renewyourmind.co.uk. I think I'm going to be changing that very soon as well, and coming with some other things, possibly also on YouTube as well. But you can find me there, or just email venrisst@hotmail.com, and you, any questions that you may have, then I can make myself available for that as well.
venrisst@hotmail.com.
Yes.
So I've put those in the chat. So if you have any questions for Venris, or to go on their website to learn more about the work that they do, he does with his wife, and see how he can be of assistance. Thank you again. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate you. And thank you for you who have joined in. Thank you for those who are sharing the videos so that more people are joining. We're trying to get to 200 subscribers before the end of the week. And you're doing so well. Good. You're sharing the video and it's fantastic. I'm so encouraged. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow when we're doing exercise. Actually, tomorrow we have somebody showing us some exercises, some simple things that we can do to exercise to get the body moving and get the blood flowing and the mind clear and our frontal lobe accessible and all that kind of stuff. So until then, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.